Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Off the Monster. I am Robert Taylor. I'm here with Jeff Brown, Mr. Jeremy in the dungeon, Derek Stats Masterson McGuire, and we have Red Sox royalty, podcast royalty, Twitter royalty, social media platform royalty. Ladies and gentlemen, Ed Hand joins us tonight. Mr. Hand, an absolute honor to meet you. Thank you for engaging with me always and listening to my silly, optimistic Red Sox banter. But it is an honor to have you on our podcast, and we cannot thank you enough for it, man. I really appreciate it.
What an intro. Does he do this for all of you guys, like every time you sign on? Also, like what a voice. Holy smokes. Do you have like a background doing like game announcing, Taylor?
Oh, you should see his Fenway South. He has to give you a quick tour of Fenway South down there.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Jeff.
No, where you set up from is amazing.
It's I'm very blessed. My beautiful bride has constructed what we call Fenway South 3 times. It's my office here at the house, and she was able to get the actual green monster paint from Benjamin Moore. I have probably spent the better part of my kids' inheritance on all the different memorabilia that goes in here. But I'll give you a tour before we sign you off. But I have the what do they say, the face for radio and the voice for TV, maybe. I don't know. It's but no, sir, my background is law enforcement, military. I've been in the private sector for the last 10 years and as an executive for a private security firm, and just recently quit my job of 10 years to start my own business. I started a promotional company where we sell t-shirts, coffee mugs, different things like that. But with my company logo, my company's called 37 Ronin, and it's based upon a logo that I had a graphics designer do for me. I'll send you the website so you can take a look. It's still under construction.
Yeah, I'd love to say.
But it's really exciting. I decided that I'd rather work 80 hours a week, making 50 grand a year working for myself, than making 100 grand a year like I was working for someone else. And I started something that I can give to my wife and her 5 kids. And yes, they are her kids. They're only mine when they do something good. And I'm still waiting for that. But no, sir, I'll send you the link. You can take a look at it. Our soft launch is on Monday, and our hard launch is on the 6th of March. And it is a full promotional line of everything related to the Ronin icon, the logo that we were able to trademark. And it's I just had a meeting on Monday with a coffee company. I'm looking to start a coffee company as well as partner with a whiskey brand down here in Texas called Rebecca Creek. So the logo that you'll see on my website, we're putting it on everything, man. We're putting it on everything.
Well, you need to send some of that whiskey to your podcasters here to.
Oh, I'm gonna once I get my
to make sure it looks
you can't
send the stats. All right, now that we said that, could you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into this?
My degree's actually in journalism, but I didn't really do anything with it until like 2019. I worked for Amazon for a few years, training Alexa how to understand various languages. Completely burnt out from that and ended up, it was kind of funny. It was 2019, and I just kind of decided one day, like, I'm quitting. I'm not doing this anymore. And I had a friend who did data streaming for like women's basketball games, and he was like, "Hey, we need somebody for the AAA club. Does that mean anything to you?" And it was the Pawtucket Red Sox at the time, and I was like, "Yeah, sure, let's do that." So I did it, and I was looking forward to getting to do that again for the 2020 season, and then the pandemic hit. And there was no minor league baseball that year. I also, around this time, got a gig doing social media for SoxProspects.com, which, if you're listening to this, I assume you're within the Red Sox Twitter sphere, so you're most likely familiar with them. But it's a prospect scouting site that is just a lot more advanced than what you normally see from fan scouting sites. And it was, that was kind of, that was something I'd been reading since high school. So it was, kind of a dream come true to be working with them. And then, everything kind of was gone. But I stuck with it. And in 2021, I started working for doing the data streaming again, started getting my master's degree in sports communications. That's sort of the path that I've been on since. I did when I was in 2013, and I think this is where a lot of my own perspective comes from. I graduated college in 2011, and I spent 2 years just kind of working these jobs like waiting tables, delivering car parts, and I was saving up money for a self-funded project where I drove across the US interviewing retired ball players that had had very long careers in the minors, but like 2 weeks in the majors. So if you've ever seen Bull Durham or like Field of
Crash
Dreams, like
Davis.
real life Crash Davises or Moonlight Graham's, guys like that. And I ended up getting 13 interviews in. It was really cool. I've been kind of it's the sort of thing where I have like a 300-page manuscript that I just kind of keep on going back to and editing because I'm too much of a perfectionist. And at some point I'd like to go and get that published like 10 years after the fact. But that was sort of my interest in minor leaguers sort of started through that. And, now I do free agency analysis for Rob Bradford. I'm on Pesky Report. I mean, for me, it's just the kind of the excuse to talk baseball, though. This is the thing more than anything else that I feel like it's, the world's so chaotic and confusing. But I feel like I understand baseball well enough that when I talk about it, it makes sense. And you can't really put a price on that.
Yeah, no, that's 100%. I think we all kind of feel the same way. We love talking baseball, and this podcast is our almost escape. Where just four guys like hanging out, talking baseball, bringing people who also love talking baseball too, if they want to come on and talk. So let's kind of jump into the baseball talk here, because there's been a lot of talk about this Red Sox team and how do they match up against the AL East, right? And everyone's going to compare you to the AL East because that's the division you're in. You got the Yankees, Rays, Blue Jays, Orioles.
Of course.
And although the Red Sox finished in last, I mean, they're only, 3 games off 500? If they had 3 more wins, they would have been 500. So it's a very weird place they find themselves in, where they weren't a last-place team by record, but they were in last. How do you feel they end up in this AL East where no one really knows what's going to happen?
Yeah, I've kind of said the same thing for the last, I guess since whenever they signed Adam Duvall. I think they're going to be somewhere between 86 and 88 wins. And I don't know if that's enough to win the division. I think they've got a pretty good shot at third place. I'm not that impressed with what the Orioles did this offseason, and they do have a real youth movement coming up and a lot of talent there, but it does take a little bit of time for those guys to adjust. And they didn't really do much to improve their pitching. So it's kind of like, do you trust Dean Kremer to be a top of the rotation guy again? Do you think Grayson Rodriguez can make that jump? The Rays are so weird. I always think they're going to finish 4th or something, and then they don't. So, I'm doing more of the same there because I don't learn from my mistakes.
I live in Florida, so I know what it feels like.
Yeah, like it's just like you look at them on paper and it's like, how do they do this year in and year out? And then they're in the postseason year in and year out. The Yankees are weird too, because they, on paper, have a really good rotation. But as soon as a few injury cracks start to appear for them, it's really not like, and they've already lost Monstah for a good chunk of the season. If Severino or Rodon, who both have, pretty substantial injury histories, go down, like they really don't have that much depth there. And the Blue Jays are just a weird team, man. I don't know what to make of them. I never know what to make of them. Did they improve their bullpen that much this offseason? They traded Teoscar Hernandez. I don't know what to make of them. I guess Chris Backett was a nice signing for them. But then you have the Red Sox, who are just as much of a wild card, if not the biggest wild card, I would say, in all of baseball, because you have a lot of things that absolutely could go right for them. And you have a lot of things that absolutely could go wrong. But I think that 2021, everything went right for the Red Sox. And 2022, everything except John Schreiber and Michael Wacha went wrong. So I think that the luck kind of has to balance out a little bit. I feel good about some of the prospects that are coming up, particularly Casas. Brayan Bello, I thought, had an excellent September seemed to really turn it up a notch. I think that Yoshida's going to be fun to watch. The team just seems so much more comfortable and relaxed without all of this contract talk going on. I think that took way more of a toll on not just the players, but the whole team. I think both Xander and Rafi and Eovaldi and just everybody, JD Martinez, everybody, like they knew change was going to be coming. And, uncertainty's scary. And I could see that definitely playing a role. I don't think that what the front office did at the deadline particularly helped. I wish that they would have just committed to either improving the team or selling to improve for the next year. But that I get it. I get that they were only 2 games out at that point. I just wish they had done a little bit more in one direction. But what are you going to do about it? It's going to be a very interesting season. I don't think I've been really looking forward to a season as much as I have to this 2023 one in a long time.
Yeah, I think this season is a big season of what ifs, though, right? You said the Rays can be a wild card, the Blue Jays are a wild card, Yankees, they have the top and talent, but the depth could be a question mark. The Orioles, I mean, they're what if. The Red Sox are a what if, and I think it kind of makes a lot of intrigue in this offseason because there's so many. You could see this scenario playing out or that scenario playing out, and you don't know what's going to happen.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, even look at the Red Sox infield situation. Kike Hernandez, Christian Arroyo, Adalberto Mondesi, and then Yu Chang is the backup there for guys with major league experience. If you told me that going into like this offseason that was going to be it, I'd be upset about them not getting Xander. I would be a little confused, but I also it's interesting because you look at how Arroyo finished up the season last year. He was their best hitter. You look at what Kike has done. His offense went downhill after he got moved to center field in 2021, obviously excluding the playoffs. But I think that the wear and tear on him probably isn't going to be quite as severe at shortstop than it was in center. I think Mondesi is just, you could tell me that he's an all-star. You could tell me that he plays 10 games and gets hurt. I believe either one. It's going to be pretty intriguing to see how that group manages to play.
Yeah, I think what it boils down to is just looking at it from my perspective, the depth in the middle infield. It doesn't look like we really have much. And if I've said this before, last year going into the season, it felt like we didn't have much depth at bullpen. And then, of course, our starters went down and the bullpen went up in flames. I'm almost feeling like we just switched that problem over to the middle infield. Do you see anybody who doesn't have major league experience that could possibly come up to add to that depth?
Yeah, I think that Emmanuel Valdez's bat is very intriguing. I got to go to I had a press pass for a game last year in Worcester. And I got to see them take batting practice. And the 2 best hitters, and it wasn't particularly close, were Casas and Valdez. He can just straight up rake. He's not that big of a guy, but he gets so much loft and so much power out of his swing. He's got a good eye. Now, the problem is, why isn't he locked into an everyday position with that? He's not a very good fielder. His hands are kind of weird. He'll make the plays when they're hit to them. It's not like Arroyo was in right field last year, but there's just not a lot of plus there. You guys remember Todd Walker back in 2003? He's a little bit like Todd Walker in that regard. Good hitter. The defense really leaves you wondering, is this the best we can do here? I think he's gotten some time at third base and the outfield too.
There's nowhere to really put him. Yeah, there's nowhere to really put him. It's like, it feels like second base is the best spot to put him. That doesn't mean it's a good spot to put him.
Right. I mean, DH would be good too, but you can't use that on an unproven guy. I think Turner kind of fits into that spot so perfectly that, why would you do this on a rookie? David Hamilton's kind of interesting as well. He doesn't have, a single game above AA, but he stole 70 bases last year. And what's wild about David Hamilton is that he only has 2 years professional experience, even though he's 25 and he's already at AAA. If you were to tell me that about most guys, he'd be ahead of schedule, but he's gotten hurt. He blew out his ACL in college. I think it was his senior year. Then there was the the 2020 season. So he's one to watch just because with the bigger bases, and he had a pretty good second half. There's also Cedar Rafaela potentially as a shortstop. Rafaela kind of jumped from being in the 30s on Sox prospects to being their number 4 prospect last year. He's already probably a Gold Glove caliber center fielder. He also plays a very good shortstop. He's one of these guys that if you put him at the position, he's going to figure it out, kind of like how Mookie Betts went from second to right field and, was a Gold Glove right fielder. The problem with him is, like Hamilton, he hasn't played a game over AA yet. And it's kind of a weird problem because when you say somebody has a high chase rate, you usually think that they strike out a lot. That's not exactly the case with Rafaela. He has incredibly good hand-eye coordination. He has 2 good hand-eye coordination.
Yeah, too good. It's like because it's all weak contact.
Yeah, he makes contact with pitches. You remember watching Vladimir Guerrero when he accidentally hit a home run on a pitch a foot outside?
Yeah, that's like Rafaela.
I think
that's like
hurt,
Rafaela. He pokes it to right field for like a soft hit single, and it's like, why just swing at the pitch? And it's like, well, he got a single, so that's how it feels with him almost.
Yeah. The problem is though that as he moves up in the system, to higher and higher levels, major league pitchers can take advantage of that stuff. He's not Vlad Guerrero Jr. He doesn't have the kind of raw power where he can, like Rafael Devers, where he can accidentally just hit something opposite field. He's got some power for a guy his size, but it's not quite at that level. People compare him to Mookie Betts. I don't think that that's accurate. I think they say that just because of his size. I think he's a lot more like Kike Hernandez, though, which is, if you're Kike Hernandez, that's not a bad thing at all. I think he's actually an even better fielder. Just it was like going through some of the highlights from him at AA last year. It got boring. Like we'd see him make like a diving catch and be like, you did that yesterday, say it on, do something else. He's that good. He's the best. He's the best defensive player the Sox have developed since Jackie Bradley Jr.
Oh, so with development, I took the weirdest route to find my love for prospects. During COVID, people did weird things. They built houses, Lowe's and Home Depot stock went through the roof. I started collecting baseball cards, specifically draft cards. So, Blaze Jordan, Marcelo Meyer, I was all over these guys to try to get these cards. But I think it's Salem's the low A team, probably had one of the best minor league teams. I mean, I think you had York, Blaze Jordan, and Marcelo Meyer on that team this year, or last year, I should say.
I got to tell you something. They're going to be even more stacked this year.
Yes. Yeah. I've been saying that. Their pitching, I think, is going to be outrageous for low A because you got Perales, you have ERC, you have losing my who's the other
Jennings Paez could be.
Jennings Paez.
If Jennings Paez adds 3 miles an hour on his fastball, people are going to be talking about him the same way that they talk about like Chris Murphy at AAA right now. His breaking stuff's apparently that good. I haven't got to see him pitch yet, but his curveball's like already plus.
My question of those 3, or maybe somebody I didn't mention, who takes the next step in their development? Obviously, the pick would be Marcelo Meyer, right? He looks like he has the build and the body and the mindset to be the starting shortstop right now, if you look at the guy. But he needs the at-bats. But where do you look at this?
Oh, man. Meyer's going to... I think that Meyer is definitely ending the season at AA. I think there's an off chance that he ends at AAA. If he's just... Because you look at it, because I tend to look at their numbers at each level without looking them like all collectively at the end of the year. But like when you look at his combined numbers for this year, the guy's eye is ready for the next level. It's like AA is always the big test though. So we'll see how he does in Portland. The guy that I think is kind of sneaking under the radar a little bit is Miguel Blaze. He was in the Florida Complex League last year, and he tweaked his back a little bit before when he would have got the call up to Salem. So he didn't end up playing there with your Mikey Romero's and your Robin Anthony's. But he was considered by the scouts to be the best hitter in the entire Florida Complex League. He's 18 years old. I think he'll be 19 going into this year. But he's gotten comparisons to guys like Julio Rodriguez and Ronald Acuna.
What about Mookie Betts?
He's not exactly a Mookie Betts. There's too much swing and miss in his game to be.
Yeah.
The problem with Mookie Betts is that there's only, like, for his skill set, Mookie Betts is like friggin' Willie Mays. It's like Mookie Betts is Willie Mays and Michael Trout is Mickey Mantle. And
It's like there's only one guy like every like 30, 40 years that's like that
Yeah.
almost that you can compare.
And we really don't know what J-Rod and Acuna are.
No.
They're still in there.
Yeah,
Exactly.
they're still so young.
but it's that level of talent where you
Yes.
could see them.
It's the
having
raw
that.
talent that's there. That's
That's
the raw
kind of-
talent.
Yeah, that's kind of how you have to gauge prospects also. I think that people get a little bit too excited, like, oh, this guy's going to be like a future Hall of Famer by the time he's 23. And the development isn't really linear. You know, there's a reason that your prime in baseball is 27. It takes a little while, even though your physical prime is like 25. It takes a while for guys to have the mental skills that they need, I think, to succeed in a game where you're going to fail 7 out of 10 times, even if you're one of the best in the profession. But you know, the talent with Blaze is very, very real. That's a true 5-tool player that's going to be a lot of fun to watch next year. I actually really like Mikey Romero also, who was the first round pick for the Red Sox. One guy who, you know, like, I mean, how many shortstops did they draft last year? It was like 5, I think, or something like that. But
and the fact that Romero and Marcelo are best buds.
I mean, no,
that could be scary.
That's fun to have in the same system too. I'm glad you mentioned that, just because you know, like that stuff I think gets underrated, like team chemistry. And I think that you'll see with them that, you know, these guys supporting each other and having each other's back, that goes a long way to develop them. Iron sharpens iron, you know, and if these guys are playing together and learning from each other, you can't really ask for more than that. But as far as pure contact hitting goes, I actually think that Romero's at least comparable to Mayer. Mayer has other skills that Romero doesn't, but he's a damn solid player, and he's going to be very fun to watch this year.
So with what we were talking about with, you know, Romero and Mayer and that, is it giving you similar vibes to like when we did have Jackie Bradley Jr. and Mookie Betts and Benintendi all coming up, like that kind of an atmosphere again?
That group's was outrageous though. You had Moncada too, Devers on the back end, Bogarts and Vasquez on the front end. Like,
I'm thinking more to early 2000s, you know, when you have Pedroia coming up, that group that came up, it just seems very similar. It feels like this team is a mix of 2007 and 13. They're not 2007, they're not 2013, but they're a really good mixture.
Yeah, you know, I wasn't following the system quite as in depth at that stage. But I think about that, like with the 2007 and 2014. So I'll defer to you guys on that. But with the 2013 and the 2018 teams, there was that nice solid combination where you had a couple of super prospects coming up. It's the other guy at that level to watch, and we haven't really talked about this because the Red Sox kind of historically sucked at it, is that they do have a really elite pitching prospect there, if you're going on raw stuff, and that's Luis Perales. You know, we talk about the 2013 and the 2017. Who's the pitcher that you think of there? John Lester. They don't really have that homegrown pitching stud, but he could be somebody like that. Just phenomenally good stuff. They have him. They're saying that he's like a potential number 2 starter at this stage of his career. But then at the top levels, we have Bayo. There's Brandon Walter and at AAA, as well as Brian Mata, who both have pretty exceptionally good stuff. Mata might be better suited for a back end of the bullpen role, but hey, Jonathan Papelbon made that switch starting to relieving, and that turned out okay. You know, Walter. Oh God, Walter he doesn't walk anybody. He went the first 2 months of the 2022 season without walking anybody.
yes, I remember seeing that all over Twitter, and I was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, and then he got hurt as soon as he got brought up to AAA. So there's a little bit of, but he also he has the single best pitch in the minor league system right now in his slider. It's at a weird angle, really hard to hit. Fastball isn't exceptional, but he can, when he really reaches back, he can hit 95, and he's a lefty. So that's a guy I would say also to keep an eye on. There's pitching that's coming, which they haven't had in a while.
Yeah, I love the fact that you touched on Perales because I really like him. Funny enough, I was looking at MLB Pipeline, their end of 2022 rankings. They haven't under 23 rankings yet. They have Perales' fastball at a 70 grade, which is crazy considering the fact that he's he barely pitched in Salem last year.
Yeah,
Like,
he's
that's how
19 and threw 35 innings like FCL and
yeah.
Salem last year.
Yeah.
But you
Yeah,
gotta
well,
keep these guys on a pitch count early.
yeah. If I mean, like, the thing is, like, if they're giving him a 70 fastball grade at that early, and I've looked at Sox prospects as a Salmon Pro, and they give him, a potential plus to better fastball, plus to better curveball, and a potential above average changeup. Like, worst case scenario, because I know the starter's workload is a question with him, but like, even worst case scenario, that's something. Hey, that plays in the bullpen too, almost. So it's also too. You look at these pitchers, and you're gonna have all these starters in lower minors. Maybe you can get up to guys AAA and get them to the big leagues, like a guy like Monstah. You said maybe he fits in the back end of the pen, but you can never have enough pitching. And maybe a guy like Prolis ends up being a really good starter in the big leagues one day. Maybe ends up being a reliever. Maybe something happens and it doesn't pan out for him, but you can never have enough pitching depth. I know there is one guy though that you bring up that we brought up before, and I'm on the same wavelength with you on this one guy, because I was really high on Rafaela heading into 22, and I was really high on another guy right with him. That guy's Edinson Paulino, because I know you've brought him up a lot.
I like Polito.
And I love Paulino.
Yeah, no, he's there's a lot of infielders at the lower levels right now, and Polito kind of gets a little lost in the shuffle, but he could be kind of like how Rafaela was this year, where he sort of emerges. I think the Red Sox did something kind of shrewd with him this year, and they kept him in Salem the entire season, and that was to avoid losing him in the Rule 5 draft, because he became eligible for that this year. And you're not going to want to. It's much easier to take a chance on a guy who's done stuff in high A than it is a guy that's never gotten out of Salem. But he's someone that I could see ending the season in Double A and then being added to the 40-man roster, because he's proven he can play all over the field, and he just hits at every single level. He hits. He's fast. He's got a good swing. I don't know if he's got the same ceiling as a guy like Romero, but it's easy to imagine a major league utility guy when you look at him. He's also only, I think, 20 years old. So who says that he stopped growing? Who says that his development stopped? There are plenty of guys that they get to Double A and something clicks there. Mookie Betts was almost out of baseball after his first professional season. So the development, sometimes it just clicks, and when it clicks, watch out.
Yeah, and the reason and you just bring up play development, like an example I use of that at times is Vladimir Guerrero Jr., because like he was on that massive, just like hot streak, flying through the minors, through all the minors, hitting 400-foot homers, it felt like every night. Then he gets to the big leagues, and it's like, like something's not right. And it's like he's just not like, because also everyone's expectations are out of the world for him, which is outrageous. But there was like, okay, maybe it's not as good as he thought. Then they moved him to first base. He got in better shape, and then everything kind of clicked for him. It shows like prospect development and just player development in general. It's not a linear thing. It can be up, it can be down, it can go back up. And like a guy like that is a guy like David Hamilton, like you said, only 2 seasons in pro ball, and he's 25, but I look at him and like he's almost like the minor league version of Mondesi, in a sense of like just guy speed, can play up the middle. I know they tried him in center field a little bit last year. Don't know how much they want to do that. I'm a little iffy on that too, but it's the big player development. It's not linear. It can be all over the place, and so that's why you might have a 25-year-old prospect who goes off one year and then gets to the big leagues and proves himself to be a solid big league player. And you might have a guy that flies to the minors early, struggles a little bit in big leagues, and they kind of find their way as they continue to play.
So Ed, you've become somewhat of a savant on the prospects over the last few years. Where would you drive the average fan, the Mr. Taylor, who might not know as much about his prospects, and I'll admit it, to go to? And obviously what you push out is going to be some great information, but where would you push the average Red Sox fan to help them follow prospects, rather than, because in today's technology with the internet, I mean, you look up Red Sox prospects, it's just sending you 100 different ways.
Yeah. I mean, SoxProspects.com is my go-to for that. And there are a few reasons. I think that the scouting reports there are as well done as you're going to see, because they hire actual scouts to do them. And then they kind of write them up, but they're very responsible with how they do their rankings. It's not one person doing it. It's kind of a collective, and they sort of figure it out through that. There's just a lot of different features. They update very regularly. There's news articles. There's a forum where you kind of can talk to the people and get a better better look at it. And I mean, the thing for me is that I love rankings and I love seeing how they change over time. And you can go back all the way to when the site started in 2004 and see their original like top 10.
I did that actually
Ukulele's
this
at
past
number
week.
one. It's great, right?
Yeah, I remember seeing names like Ryan Kalish and Michael Bowden. I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, I remember these guys.
Yeah,
when I was playing MLB 2K10 on the Wii, and it's like, and you get these guys on the Red Sox. I'm like, she's like blast from the past.
Did I hear this right about MLB TV this year? That with the package, you get minor league games too.
That's correct.
Oh.
Yes.
Oh,
yes. I'm excited. I'm
now,
so
is
excited.
that AAA? Has anybody done any digging on that? Is
I
that
think
AAA,
it's AAA, AA, and then select low A. Select A-ball games depending on if they're broadcasting them. However, they're doing that. Not all A-ball teams will have.
Oh my God, you're gonna need a wheelbarrow to get my ass out of the house. I'm gonna be eating hot dogs and watching baseball.
I was joking. I don't know who I was talking to. I think I was talking to my grandfather. So I told him I'm gonna need like the Jared Carabas setup of like all the TVs, and it's just gonna be the Red Sox in the middle, and then the whole farm system around the main TV.
You need to have be in a circular room and have like a spinning chair so you can just spin to like whichever TV you need to check out.
That's what we need.
I think I'm going to do some redecorating in the dungeon.
The other thing that I would suggest, though, as far as if you want to learn more with the minor, is just going to the games. Honestly, there are so many minor league teams out there that you can usually, if not a minor league one, you can find an independent league one, and they're just it's just good baseball. It's very pure. And
it's the weirdest thing. We have the minor league. I think it's high A Marlin team in Beloit, Wisconsin.
Low A.
Low A.
Yeah. Low A.
Yeah. Jeremy and I both live in Illinois, and it's only about 15 minutes away from me. I mean, it's a great time. Very cheap, good prospects.
Hey, don't forget the
Worcester never comes, unfortunately.
Don't forget the independent league, Rockford Rivets, where it's basically just college kids.
Yeah, it's basically the Cape Cod League
in the summer. Yeah, exactly. Like it's fun, But I agree, checking out your minor league teams and stuff, because it helps grow the sport too. So Mr. Taylor, I keep telling you about the missions. Go to the missions, man. You can tell me about brewer prospects, okay? And we could talk about that.
Are the missions AA or AAA?
AA.
AA, you might get to see Jackson Chourio there this year.
He's going to be in the majors by the end of the year.
I know, but by the end of the year, there's a chance he might start in AA. He's only 18, I think, still, or something outrageous. Like, his rise last year was like it almost was unprecedented, because it was like 18-year-old. All right, A ball, like low A, high A, AA, and it's like, hold on, like he's playing amazing at every single level. It's just was meteoric. I think MLB Pipeline had him as like their number 6 prospect in baseball. It's like, it's outrageous how young he is too. It's crazy.
Yeah, no, he really shot through that. That's one of those guys that I had never heard of him until like October. That I was looking at the rankings and I was like, where'd this guy come from? Chorizo? Who's he?
Yeah. Oh my God. He has like a couple like brothers, I think, that are across like some systems. One of them just got traded to this offseason, and it's like, yeah, no wonder why he just got traded. Look what his brother's doing. It's like, yeah, obviously. But no, I do think too. We look at this Red Sox team, and it is fun having the prospect core that they have kind of coming up, because we're getting that infusion with Bayo, who's not a prospect anymore, but he was, and we got Casas, and some people call Yoshida a prospect. He's not a prospect, let's be honest. But they're guys waiting in the wings in AAA. But also too, there are a couple guys who've come up and they've had their big league struggles, and Jaron Duran and Bobby Dahlbeck.
Yep. Dynamic duo.
Yeah. How do they kind of figure out a way to fit into this team? Because Dahlbeck, it does seem like he's a backup first baseman, but he's like declined like every interview anyone's asked him to do since he got sent down to Worcester last year, and no one knows what's going on there, especially mentally, which, even with Duran too, it's like we want them to play well and want them to be mentally sound, but it's where, like, how do they fit into the picture? Because it is kind of hard to envision where they fit in right now.
I think a way to rephrase that, Stats, is there hope for Bobby Dahlbeck? Like, I think that's what we're down to now. Like, is there hope that he can just be a guy?
I think that there's always hope when you have a skill like Bobby does in his power. because he really does have that 40 home run power in his bat. The problem is that it's mental for a lot of it. And you could kind of see it last year. It was almost like he knew that he was on a short string and he kept on expecting the string to get cut, and it didn't until, like September. But you can just kind of see the pressure. He's battling himself every at bat. And you're not going to hit well when that's the case. He's already streaky. We saw that. We saw what he can do when he gets going. We saw it in 2020. We saw it in 2021. It's easy to forget that going into the 2022 season, Dalbec at first base seemed kind of reasonable based on how he finished the season. He had a great second half. He ended up with 25 home runs, and it was kind of reasonable to think that he might hit, he might be a 30 home run guy, even if the average is low, and it just didn't happen. I do think that there's hope for him. I don't know if it's going to be in Boston. I think that Boston's a hard place to play for anybody. But if you're having that kind of battle with yourself, every time you come to the plate and you're beating yourself up, you got to have the attitude. Like, I love Cassis's attitude when you see him just being kind of like, I am exactly who I am. Fuck everybody else. He knows exactly who he is. And that's kind of what, it's not a guarantee of success, but it's like the mental, you talk about like a mental toolkit. It's a really good skill to have that self-assurance. I don't know if Dalbec has that right now. I don't know if Jarren Duran has that right now, especially after, the tribulations he went through in 2022. But Duran also has one very exceptional skill, and that's his speed. And as long as, you have a skill that's better than everybody else's, you're going to get opportunities places. I mean, look at Billy Hamilton. Like, that's his only skill is that he's fast, and he's 34 and still gets minor league deals every year.
Wasn't he with the White Sox last year?
I think so.
Yeah.
He was. Yep, he was.
Yeah, I know it is that, and that is true. Like, I say this with Dahlbeck, because like Dahlbeck is going to be a spring training MVP every single year because there's no pressure on him in spring training. He gets to go out, especially like even like we saw it in 21. I think was it 21 where in spring. Yeah, they had spring training in 21 where it was like he performed really well in spring training, and then in 22 he performed really well in spring training, and it was like, okay, like he's rolling into the season, he's hot, he's already heated up, and he just came off a real hot second half. And then when the season started and the kind of pressure got in and started coming on to him, and he started off slow, you could kind of see it kind of going downhill. You could see it in the process of going downhill. But I think there is a spot for him. Is it with Boston? Who knows? But they don't really have anyone else to be a backup first baseman. I mean, Justin Turner hasn't played first base in 6 years. Ref Snyder played like 20 innings at first base in his MLB career. Like,
who's played a surprising amount of first base? Yu Chang actually has played some first. I think that part of their reasoning for going with him, which by the way, I can understand why the team makes the moves that they make. I disagree with going Yu Chang over Jose Iglesias. I think that Iglesias would come back here pretty inexpensively. I don't hate Yu Chang. I think he's fine as far as like, if you got him on a minor league deal, you keep him in AAA and then somebody gets hurt, he's your first guy up. Yeah, that's great. He plays, he has a little bit of power, he plays every position, cool. I don't like that. It felt to me that they were like one piece short of having that, like an infield that you're like, okay, let's do this. And Iglesias, like that veteran who isn't going to be great, but he'll hit 280 for you with like 30 doubles and play decent enough defense. I feel like they're missing that right now. And just given Hernandez and Mondesi and Arroyo's injury history, I really wish they had just gone the extra mile and just gotten just one more piece of stability. It doesn't need, you don't need to get, I don't know, like Carlos Correa or someone like that. Just somebody that if an injury happens, your entire infield is totally screwed.
Well, I think with Iglesias, there's whispers out there with, clubhouse presence and that with him. And it seems like that's one thing that Chaim Bloom really wanted to shore up is clubhouse atmosphere. I get that feeling because last year, on many occasions, they looked flat. They looked, not enthused and there to be there. And this year, you're bringing in Turner and you're reuniting Kike with him and Verdugo. And so, of course, they're going to be like, lack of a better term, like the three amigos going in there. And, just having a blast. And I think the rest of the guys can pick up on that. And as you were saying with Dahlbeck, right? The pressure, maybe having that fun atmosphere and stuff, maybe that's something Dahlbeck can thrive off of, to where having, Cass's in the background dancing, with his fingernails, which I personally, I love. I don't care. Do what you do. Just, make sure you go hit home runs and
Yeah, exactly.
everything's good. Right.
The guy
And
goes
I can
tanning
see that.
before games in his underwear.
Goes on his Twitter and starts talking about big Swedish fish manipulating like the airplane industry. Like I love
Right.
it.
Yeah, no, I think
Yeah.
though, there's definitely a point to be made with Iglesias, and I think too. I do wonder was he like dead set on wanting to play shortstop too? I wonder if that could maybe be a thing, because I know he played second when he came back, but it was kind of like almost like a last chance almost for him. It's kind of, and the Red Sox just needed someone, and then
There's also that connection to some of the old, like the 2021 team, where maybe they just wanted to take, just have a clean break from that. Like they moved on from Eovaldi, Bogarts, Martinez, a lot of the leadership from that. It might just be like almost like just trying to find their own identity through this.
Well, Ryan Brazier's still there, so I mean, they must love him.
You can't get rid of Ryan Brazier.
You can't get rid of him.
Are you poking the bear? You're poking the bear.
You can't get rid of Ryan
I'm
Brazier.
poking
You can't get rid of him.
No,
Is that what you guys call Ryan Brazier here, the bear?
No, I'm poking. I'm messing
No.
with Jeremy because I'm messing
Jeremy's
with
the bear.
Jeremy, because Jeremy had, I think, what was it? It had gone for at least like a month and a half, 2 months. So every single day.
Actually,
Right up until Winterfest.
Yeah, it was basically every day since like before Thanksgiving up until just after Winterfest that I tweeted out, "Why is Ryan Brazier still on the team?" And finally, to Heimblum's credit, he at another podcast that he was on, he addressed it, he answered it. It's an answer I don't like, but I can at least respect it and go, okay. So I moved on now to just asking every day, when is Poppy getting a statue? So that's my movement now. So
I like the directional change there. For the life of me, I don't really understand the Brazier move either. I think I would rather have, kept Thad Ward or like one of the other, like AJ Politi or somebody that they lost in the Rule 5 draft. But I don't I think some of it with relievers also, like I think some of that's Cora. And that's not a diss at Cora whatsoever. Cora has guys that he trusts, and Brazier earned his trust in 2018 and in 2021. They leaned on that guy, especially 2021. People forget. Remember that last week against the Nationals where they had to win like every game, and Brazier was just coming in every single game. The dude was like still recovering from PTSD or whatever from getting hit in the head with that ball. Like, and he was just taking he was like, come if you get these outs, I can guarantee you your job through arbitration, Ryan. Okay, like that's what I think must have happened.
Yeah, and people too, they don't remember 2021. Like, he only pitched 12 innings. Not his fault. Like the guy got hit in the head with a line drive in Fort Myers, like when he was rehabbing to come back, and he was pretty close to going on a rehab assignment. So it's not like he was, way off and still had a couple months. Like he was close to going on a rehab assignment, line drive up that, and that knocked him out for like another 2.5 months. It felt like. So it's not like he only threw 12 innings in 21 because, I'm just injured and I don't want to pitch. It was like, no, like the guy got smoked in the head with a line drive. It's almost like Sale with getting smoked in the finger from Aaron Hicks. It's like, what the heck are you supposed to do? It's like you literally can't do anything.
Yeah,
just got to keep him off a bike.
Stay away from DoorDash.
Had to.
Yeah. I want to come back around to where we see this team going. I'm not as optimistic as Mr. Taylor, where he's going to say this team's going to fuck around and they're going to win it all, which they could. They very much could. But two things I think they're going in their advantages. One is the schedule. They don't play the AL East. They're not going to get beat up by the AL East as much this year. And two, they play a ton of National League games. I think it's 42 games that they play versus the National League. And for some reason, historically, since they started playing interleague, I don't know why, the Red Sox, no matter what team they've ever had, have always played National League teams well. And I could see this team finishing second. I could see them finishing fourth, but I could see them definitely finishing second. Like you said before, I don't think Toronto did much to improve their team Yankees didn't do much. I mean, they signed Judge. They already had Judge.
Yeah.
Obviously, they improved their pitching staff a little bit, but Tampa Bay, they pull it out of their ass every year. I don't know where I almost feel like they're the Alabama of Major League Baseball. Where are they recruiting these pitchers every year?
Well, it's like a guy like Shane
I think
McClanahan. It's a guy like Shane McClanahan who goes late first round of the Rays when he was in their backyard at USF in Tampa in college. He was in their backyard. No one else is like, oh, we're going to take McClanahan. And the Rays are just like, yeah, we'll take him first round.
But there's 29 other teams with scouts out there.
Exactly. But it's like he was in the Rays backyard.
Guys, here it is, okay? You guys need to come with me. Put on your tinfoil hats and come with me. They have a lab in the Everglades where they just create guys. It's the same thing like with the Cardinals. They have a lab somewhere in the Ozarks where they just create guys and they just end up hitting and fielding.
They create outfielders to trade away and become
right.
stars on other teams. That's what they do.
Right.
No, I believe that with the Rays lab. It was kind of interesting. We had Ryan Sheriff on Pesky Report a few weeks ago, and he pitched with me. He pitched in the 2020 World Series for the Rays, and I kind of asked him just like what it was like there, like pitching with the Rays. Like, did they take him to a hidden like basement or something like that? And he basically just said that they showed him his numbers, said you've had the most success with this pitch, do whatever you want with that. And that seems to be sort of how the Rays operate. Like they kind of give you a lot of freedom to do whatever and let you be the person that you want to be and the pitcher that you want to be, and they'll help you. It's like good parenting. I feel like they'll help you where they can, but ultimately it's up to you.
I think it's the obvious reason is usually the reason. And the reason is nobody goes to their games. So there's no stress on these guys. No, I mean, what do they get? About 2,000 people show up at that
it's
stadium?
More
than that.
Why aren't the A's always in first place then?
Not many people show up.
It's the fact that they have the worst located.
They don't have the stress of Fenway Park, where they're right on you as a pitcher.
Yeah, I mean, Fenway's definitely a hard place to pitch. I mean, it's also just the reason why there aren't that many historically amazing pitchers, but when they are good, they're really, really good, is because you have to be incredibly dominant to succeed at Fenway. It's just like it's a hitter's playground, with that
third highest park factor over the last 3 years. It's a hitter's paradise, and it's a doubles and triples paradise, and it is even a home run paradise too at times.
But not for the team last year.
No, not for that team. No, but it's like funny we talk about the Rays, and I look at the Rays rotation. It's like they might have the best rotation in the AL East. Like when you start looking at it, because if everyone stays healthy, in a hypothetical world, you have McClanahan, you have Glasnow, you have Rasmussen, who I thought was really underrated last year. You have Jeffrey Springs, former Red Sox.
Yep.
You have Eflin as your 5 in that rotation, but they got Taj Bradley just waiting in their wings in AAA, and he was dominant in the minor leagues last year. So, and Shane Baz out with Tommy John for the year, but he'll be back in 24. It's like they just have so many guys. Yanni Chirinos is in the minor leagues. He's barely pitched the last couple of years. He pitched 1 game against the Red Sox last year.
But it's similar to the Red Sox in some ways, because if you told me that team is going to have 4 all-stars in their rotation, I'd be like, yeah, probably. But then if you told me like 4 of them were going to miss the entire season with arm injuries, I'd be like, oh yeah, probably.
Yeah. Well, it's like the Red Sox. It's like you could go, Sale could be an all-star. Bayo breaks the all-star. Whitlock. Kluber too, maybe, I guess. Whatever.
It could be good. Or they could just get hurt.
Yeah. Or they could all get hurt. It's like, that's literally what it is. One thing I do want to touch on, Alex Verdugo, because it was big breaking news kind of, he asked the team about extension. I love Doogie. I got my Doogie poster.
Yeah, my girl Gabriella got that scoop.
Yeah, so when we talk about Doogie, and I've been thinking about silently in my head for a couple of years. And I'm like, let's get him locked up. Like, let's get him here. Keep Kike here. Let's maybe get like a Julio Urias in free agency a couple of years. I know it's something you talked about once or twice on Twitter. Yeah. Like I'm on the whole get Urias to Boston type train. How are we feeling about a potential Verdugo extension? What should it look like? What could it look like? What would you personally give?
It's a very good question, because I think we've seen his floor the last couple of years, which isn't bad. He's like a 280, 13 home run. He had 39 doubles last year. Like, he's not bad or anything like that. I think that people's expectations for him were really high for a couple of reasons. One, he was the main return for Mookie. And then 2, you look at the guy, you look at his hand-eye coordination, you look at his swing. I see a guy that could hit 320 with like 50 doubles off the monster if he starts consistently going opposite field. So I think that I think that there's an expectation that he's going to be better at some point than he's been. And, he's entering his prime now. I think he's 27, which is amazing that he's that young.
26.
He's 26. No, that's Arroyo that's like 27. Sorry. But I think that he came into camp. He's lost like 15 pounds. He looks athletic as all hell. Not that he was unathletic before, but he was a little bulkier. But he slimmed down a little bit. I think that this is a huge year for him, and if he's having a good season coming into like the All-Star break, you give him what Benintendi got, 75 million, 5 years. I think that that's pretty reasonable. Now he might want more years than that because that's going to take him through his prime. Maybe he wants 7. You go a little more, but
I've thrown out like 700 maybe.
Yeah, something like that. But the thing that I think is really important with it is that his defense improves this year because you have too many guys positioned for left field. He has to be able to show that he can handle that right field.
Yes. Yeah, 100%. I think he can do it. I think last year there's a little bit of struggles too because he wasn't consistently playing right field for times at 21 and 22. And then last year he wasn't in the shape to play right field at Fenway because you kind of have to be almost like a second center fielder in a sense.
He's also had like a fractured toe for 2 months.
Yes,
so, that's got to come into it as well.
Yeah, that too, 100%. I think that's a big thing. I think we want to move on, kind of get to our closing segment.
If you guys want to, I can probably give another 15 minutes past 8 if you guys want on that. So just don't feel the need to rush.
No, well, actually,
cool.
I want to get into this because I don't know how long this is going to go, actually. Yeah. So let's say it's a closing segment. Sometimes it goes 10, 15 minutes. We don't know how long this goes.
Right.
So you work for Sox Prospects, obviously, and I was going through their list and whatever. The original question for our stats and chats kind of thing, closing segment was going to be, how many like recurring like guys have been like 2-time number one prospects where they were number one prospect, then they lost it, and then they regained it. But I started looking at, I'm like, there's too many guys. I'm not doing that. Because I'm like, so the question I came up with, who has been the longest tenured number one prospect in Sox Prospects history through just one tenure, not multiple tenures, and how long was that tenure? It's 2 questions.
So I want to say, and maybe it's recency bias, I want to say Tristan Cassis for like 3 years because I know he was number one for a while, but I don't have that good of a recollection of some of like the earlier guys. I could see, like maybe Bogart's got to the majors too quickly. I could see it. I'm going to say Cassis though for 3 years.
That's right on the dot. Cassis for exactly 3 years.
Oh, holy shit! Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Now
here's the second
here's the second part of this question. Now there's a couple extra parts. Now we have the second guy. There's a second guy who was a Sox Prospects number one prospect. The Sox Prospects number one prospect in 5 different editions of the list, 5 consecutively. I think it was about a year and. I think it was about 20-ish months.
The old people can make sense of what you just said.
The Red Sox top prospect, according to Sox Prospects, this guy had a reign of about approximately 20 months as the number one prospect. He has the second longest tenure as the number one prospect. Who would that be?
I would think it's during a time that the minor league system wasn't very good. I'm just, again, recency bias. Let's go Michael Chavis.
Nope, it's not Chavis. Chavis was only the number one prospect for 3 turns around. He was the number one prospect for about a year.
It's kind of sad that
Cassis cut off
for that long. Yeah, no, I remember when that happened. But yeah, Chavis was there for a bit.
I still miss him.
That's let me think who else was there for a while in that spot.
All right.
Devers maybe
else can jump on in.
Yeah, go jump in. Somebody jump in.
It's not Devers. I'll tell you that. I know it's not Devers.
Not Devers.
Nomar.
Nomar predates the existence.
I just want to say Nomar.
Nomar.
Jackie Bradley Jr.
No, it isn't. I don't think Jackie was ever a number one prospect. He got called up because he got called up early.
Andrew Benintendi.
Not Benintendi.
What about Moncada?
Not Moncada. Moncada was for about 15 months.
Okay.
Who'd you say?
Bogarts?
Oh.
Yes, it is Xander Bogaerts.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
Yeah.
See, I would have thought Bogarts was to the majors too quickly for that, but I guess if he was young enough.
You would think so, but here's the thing that kind of screws with that. He was number one prospect on the September list in 2012. Then he held the number one prospect all throughout 2013. He didn't exceed prospect status in the regular season, so he was still the number one prospect come the spring of 2014 and held that up until the July rankings where he fell off the list because he was no longer eligible to be a prospect.
Right. That's why Cassis is number 2 now, even though he got like an entire month of the majors last year. He still didn't quite hit the at-bats he needed.
Yeah. Some of the prospect rules are a little wacky. All right. Here is the last question. This one I think is very intriguing.
Okay.
This one I really like this one. This guy, this Red Sox player who was on the MLB team, wasn't on the team much in 2013, but he did get a couple appearances, I think, if my memory's not. If not, but he's definitely near AAA in 2013, and he was a big part of the 2018 World Series team. He was the number 2 prospect behind both Will Middlebrooks and Xander Bogaerts. Who would that person be?
Number 2.
And he played on 2018.
Wasn't Brock Holt, was it?
No, it wasn't Brock Holt. He wasn't on the 2013 big league team.
Okay.
He was a big part of the 2018 team.
Okay.
Can you repeat that?
So this player was a big part of the 2018 Red Sox World Series team, and he was the number 2 prospect at different times behind Will Middlebrooks and Xander Bogaerts. Who would that be?
Heck was in the bullpen? Was that Barnes?
Yep, Matt Barnes.
Oh,
Yeah, Matt Barnes is the number 2 prospect.
I figured it was some kind of a reliever because like guys that start that high will be starters and then they get to the majors.
Then they move to the bullpen. Yeah, exactly.
right.
Do you remember when it was Barnes and like the other top pitching prospect was Anthony Renato?
Yes. What was funny is Middlebrooks was the number 3 prospect for 3 straight rankings, but in his last 2, Anthony Renato was the number 2 prospect, and then it was Matt Barnes the next rankings. He was the number 2 prospect. Before that, it was actually you go a little bit earlier. You actually had it was in 2011. You had Renato, and then you had Felix Dubron. Right.
Oh, there's a name I haven't heard in a
Felix
while.
Dubron.
Yeah,
Wow.
that's a name.
Hey, he was like the number 3 or 4 starter for the 2013 team, wasn't he? He was definitely in that rotation.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, he was definitely in that
in.
rotation. I don't remember exactly where he was in that.
He's also still active in the Venezuelan league.
Yeah, which is wild.
Yeah,
he had 29 appearances, 27 starts in 2013. He had 29 starts in 2012 too, actually.
I'm gonna pick a scab here just because I can't help myself, and we're talking prospects and stuff. I just have to throw this name out there. How long was Rusney Castillo a top prospect?
Oh, it definitely wasn't long. It might have been for like
that
a
was
month.
gonna be like. It felt like that guy was like forever just talked about as a number 1, but it was just because he was
never a number 1 prospect.
He wasn't?
No, he was never a number 1. I don't know if he ever was he ever considered a.
I mean, I think he was. He might not have been.
No, because I don't think Sox prospect would have counted because they didn't count not counting Yoshida.
Yeah, they don't generally count the Japanese guys
Yeah.
or like the foreign guys unless like they came at a certain age. So like Tozawa they counted because he like skipped playing in the Nippon League. But I think like like Yoshida obviously. I don't think Daisuke was ever on it. I don't think Okajima was ever on it.
No, I don't think so.
I think that goes with the
Castillo
Cuban
came over
players
from
as well.
Cuba. Right. So
yeah, I feel bad for
Didn't
Castillo.
they sign him young?
I think he was 25. He wasn't or 24. He wasn't like ridiculously young. That's another guy that's still active, but older. I feel bad for him because like if he was just like a normal player that didn't have all this money attached to him, he would have been like a major league 4th outfielder. Like he was good enough to do that. He won like a batting title in AAA. He always hit there.
Yeah.
He just wasn't good enough for the money he was getting.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I agree. Like, I feel bad too because there was a lot of fanfare around him and stuff, and he was young from Cuba, didn't know much, and to throw him in there, it was like, man. And I agree. Like, I think he could have been a guy, not like an all-star or anything like that, but just a serviceable guy who, could at least contribute. And
unfortunately, serviceable isn't going to cost $13 million.
So I have a question.
Unless you're the Padres.
I have a question for all of you because it seems like a few different generations of fans here, and I just want to know who your favorite player was growing up. And I can tell you, mine was Nomar Garciaparra. I had his poster. I had like 5 of his posters in my childhood bedroom. I cried the day he was traded. Yeah, I was Nomar or Gus, but I'm always curious with other fans from other generations who their big guy was.
Mr. Taylor.
Mr. Brown, go ahead.
No.
No, I want to hear Mr. Taylor's. I think I know the answer.
Mike Napoli.
Really?
No.
He's
I'm
gonna
a
say
little
Babe
in the
Ruth.
Hall of Fame.
He's gonna say Babe Ruth.
Mike
Yeah.
Napoli's a Hall of
I
Famer.
thought you were talking to me. I was going to say Babe Ruth. I'm not that friggin' old.
Now,
I'll
Mike,
come down to Florida and smack you.
growing up in Texas, I'm in San Antonio, which is kind of in between Houston, Dallas, Fort Worth.
Beautiful
So we're
city.
kind of absolutely love the city. It's extremely large, but outside of the San Antonio Spurs, we really don't have a real sports footprint. So you can root for the Astros or you can root for the Rangers, but there's not much of a baseball footprint in San Antonio. I was very lucky. My mother and father not necessarily came from opulence, but we had cable when I was a kid. So I watched a lot of WGN and the Cubs, and I watched a lot of the Braves on TBS. But what excited my favorite player has always been Babe Ruth. Just historically, Babe Ruth has always been my favorite player. Will always be my favorite player. But I really got enamored by Jose Canseco and Mark McGwire and the Bash Brothers. So I would religiously watch ESPN every night to see if Jose Canseco would hit a home run or Mark McGwire would hit a home run. But I would watch individual players as opposed to root for a team. So like Mark Grace for the Cubs, Rafael Palmeiro, Will Clark. These were guys that I really enjoyed watching. But finally, at a point, I said, you got to pick a team to root for. And I actually selected the Baltimore Orioles because that was Babe Ruth's first team. They were a minor league club for the Red Sox. And then he played for 5 months, and then he went on to play for the Red Sox, and then unfortunately the fucking Yankees, and the rest is proverbially history. But for me, it's my favorite player is always going to be Babe Ruth. But Jose Canseco was a big part of my childhood just because of what he did. I mean, he came in '88, or his rookie year was '87. He won Rookie of the Year. He won the MVP in '88. He was the first 40-40 guy. World Series champion in '89. He changed the game fundamentally. Now we know it was because of steroids, but I want to see a 600 fucking foot home run. So hit a deck of D-ball stacks, man. Fucking throw some tanks up there.
Give everyone the Goldilocks balls next year.
I'm going in the other direction on this one. And this is before all the chaos hit home with this guy. I'm at the same age Mr. Taylor is. I'm 51 years old. No, not the same age. He hasn't hit the 50 yet. But
I'm close.
I grew up in Boston, just outside of Boston in Somerville. I cried when I was
Watertown now.
Okay. I worked at Bentley College for a while.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So just
right down the
over
street.
in Waltham. Yeah.
Yep. But I was 14 when I cried when they lost in '86. Clemens. I loved watching Clemens anytime he was, because the Red Sox were awful other than '86 for quite a while. They had some good years. Oakland A's just beat us into the dirt with the Bash Brothers, Dave Stewart, and their great pitching staff back then. The only reason I bring that up is because outside of the Red Sox, my favorite player to watch was Ricky Henderson.
That was my dad's favorite player, was Ricky Henderson.
He come to Fenway, he would talk. I mean, just talk to the people in left field. He didn't care. He just Ricky being Ricky before Manny was Manny. I got to meet him about 5-6 years ago out in Vegas on a trip. I went with some buddies, and little dude, obviously, but dude had hands like cement. I mean, and he looked like he could go back and play. And I think he retired when he was like 48 or something years old. But those are records. That's a record. Nobody's ever come back.
I think he's the only position player Hall of Famer that threw lefty and hit righty.
And I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
Maybe it's the StatCast era. the Moneyball era where steals went away. But I wish steals would make a comeback because I think it's a beautiful part of the game that's terribly missed. Nobody's ever going to touch Ricky Henderson's record. He's like near 1,500 steals, which you look at it now, nobody even steals 50 a year. So nobody's ever going to hit.
Red Sox roll out a middle infield of Monstah and David Hamilton.
We'll see with these new bases and the pickoff rules and everything too, because that could change. But then it's like, imagine how many Ricky would steal with bigger bases, you know?
Oh, 3,000.
Jeremy, who's your favorite player?
So for me, it's kind of interesting, right? I go back to the days of like remembering Red Sox players. There's Mike Greenwell and Dwight Evans and Clemens and that. But what I can honestly say, the player that I first really fell in love with, and that was my guy, and kind of hitched my wagon to, so to speak, is Trot Nixon.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Right, like and it was it's my teenage years and stuff, and I always sat there like, if I played the game, I would play it like him. Like he was just going to show up every day, dirty uniform, pine tar in the helmet, and just wherever you need me, that's where I'm going, and I'm here to play. And I loved him. Like he was the quiet leader too. He was just going to do it by example, and that's it. And I'm sure in that clubhouse, when he needed to say something, he would, and he'd get everybody's attention, but it wasn't often. And I loved him, and till this day, he's still my favorite all time.
The ultimate dirt dog.
Yeah, he was like a first-round pick that played like he was like a 40th round pick. He just grinded it out. Do you remember? And I apologize, Jeff, for bringing this up. But do you remember that game on ESPN in 2000 where it was Clemens versus Pedro, and they were tied 0-0 going into the ninth inning, and Nixon hit a 2-run homer off of him, and it was the top of the ninth, so it was in Yankee Stadium. Yeah, but Nixon hit that bomb off. The first game I ever remember going to was the game right after that when they came back to Fenway, and he got a standing ovation. It was like I must have been like 9 or 10, but it was to be there, like that energy.
Clemens was dead to me after he left the Red Sox.
Oh god, I can't wait to make everyone feel old.
My grandmother hated Roger Clemens. That's all you need to know.
No, for me, I see. Like I had players like I like Pedroia, I like Ortiz, obviously, but it was like I was like I never like having the same favorite player as the majority of fans. So I kind of hitched my wagon on guys who came over from other teams. And the first guy I really, really hitched my wagon that had success in Boston was Shane Victorino. I remember when Grady Sizemore came over, and I kind of hitched my wagon to him. I'm like, we're going. I love Grady Sizemore. We're going. We're rocking with him. Because I remember him from his time. Actually, the first Red Sox game I went to was the Red Sox in Cleveland, and Grady Sizemore was playing. So I remember that. And when he came over to Boston, I was like, oh, let's go. Like, Grady Sizemore here. And then, never really panned out. And it was also Ryan Sweeney came over, and like,
he looked like he was. I remember Sweeney. He looked like he should have like this insane power, but he was like a singles hitter.
Yes. I remember. Oh my gosh, I don't know what I was thinking when I was like 8 on like MLB 2K10. I was like 9 or whatever, and I have this Red Sox team, and I'm like, all right, here we go. We're gonna put Ryan Sweeney in left field. We're gonna put Sizemore in center. We're gonna put Victorino in right because I'm traded for all of them, and then we're gonna move Ellsbury and have him play first base. Don't ask me why I did it. I don't know. It was
first baseman Jacoby Ellsbury.
It was so wild. It was so wild. So I remember though when those three guys, like I think Sweeney was in 2012, I think Victorino was in 13, and then Sizemore was in 14. And I was just like, hit every single year, a new guy to hitch my wagon to, and I'm like, I love this. And then it was like they all left, and I was like, okay, cool. We're living off past glory now with Victorino. And then I kind of did that. And 2018 was great and all, but I didn't really have like a favorite player on the team because it was like I liked everyone. I didn't have a favorite. And then when we got Verdugo, and I was like, all right, cool, hitching my wagon to Verdugo. Because I'd seen him, and I remember, I don't know why, in 2019 I watched a lot of Dodgers games. For whatever reason, I have no clue why I did. I remember he hit like 310 or something outrageous with the Dodgers in like 80 games in 2019. So when he was the lead piece back on the deal, I'm like, uh-oh. And I'm looking at his numbers. I'm like, he hit like 10 home runs that year too in like 80 games. I'm like, hold on, are we ever gonna have a guy who's hitting like 320 with like 20 homers? Which is a little outrageous for him, don't get me wrong. But I was like, so that kind of hitched my wagon to Doogie, and I'm kind of, so now I'm just like, okay, let's keep him. Let's bring in Urias. Who cares about being the Dodgers East?
Dodgers East, baby.
Who cares? We'll win a World Series with their guys before they win it. We'll win it with their
right.
guys
There
before
you
they
go.
win it with our guys.
Right. There are more 2018 Dodgers on the Red Sox than there are 2018 Red Sox.
Yeah, they're probably more 2018 Red Sox on the Dodgers in 2018.
Yes.
But you know what's weird? The 2005 Dodgers had a bunch of ex-Red Sox on it. It was like Nomar Garcia-Parra, Shea Hillenbrand,
Yeah.
Derek Lowe, Hideo Nomo, Grady Little was
Yep.
the manager.
Yeah.
It was like that became
Yes.
like Red Sox West. So
Yeah, and then
I mean,
Manny
it's just the
ended up
pendulum
going
is swung,
over
I
there.
guess.
Manny ended up going over there.
Manny played for him. Yeah.
And I want to
You
kind
know-
of reel this back into like this last almost like guess who questions. I actually had this one planned. I wanted to save it for last.
Okay, let's
And-
end it on this then.
Because this one is a guy who I fell in love with as a kid. Didn't play too much with us. I wasn't super successful. That may be giving away a little bit too much. So this former 3rd round pick by the Red Sox peaked at number 8 on the Sox prospects list in 2007. He is currently an assistant hitting coach for none other than the LA Dodgers. Who is that guy?
3rd round pick.
Noma.
Tim Fiderowitz.
This, yeah, I remember. You know why? This one really got me. This guy's name was brought up as the Dodgers potentially promoting him to hitting coach if their hitting coach is going to leave.
Man.
This came up in like a John Morosi tweet, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, I haven't heard that name in forever."
So eighth prospect in 2007.
What position?
First base.
Oh, wait. Okay, so Burkhart was much earlier than that.
He was
Oh
drafted.
my
in
god, I know who.
2006.
No, I know who this is. Oh my god, I'm completely blanking on the name.
Drafted in 06.
He was like a really good spring training player. He was kind of like pre Sam Travis. He was like Sam Travis before Sam Travis.
Yes. I remember in the system it was this guy and Jeff Bailey at first base in the minors.
Oh, okay. See, I thought it was Jeff Bailey. So
No, it's not Jeff Bailey.
Yeah, I have no idea then.
Another first baseman who's in the minors at the same
Alright.
time.
We don't have it.
Everyone just gonna
Yeah, I give up. Yeah, just tell us.
Aaron Bates.
Ah, right. Bates and Bailey.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
it's
remember
almost
Aaron Bates.
like the Dahlbeck
Yeah, I
and
remember his
Jamison
brother
21
Norman.
spring training.
Yep.
Or is that
It's-
2020 spring training?
Norman was that killer at the plate.
So
I could do this
all right,
all night long.
So Aaron Bates is the assistant hitting coach.
He's one of the assistant hitting coaches for the Dodgers, but
Damn.
it would seem he's the most advanced assistant hitting coach because they were going to promote him had their hitting coach left, which was a legit possibility.
So
And
the
if you
Red
come
Sox
across
and
any
Dodgers.
collectors of baseball cards, push them my way. I'm not kidding when I say it. I got this guy, Bello,
I have that same card, but it's not signed.
Marcelo Meyer,
Oh, that's a nice one.
All
and
that
Oh,
Miguel
yeah.
Miguel Bleis is a 10,
Oh,
graded 10.
Yeah.
So those are
Yep.
just three of the small little guys I've got in my collection that I'm going to be a millionaire. I'm going to retire if any of one of them hit big.
All right. I think last thing for me is the Red Sox should definitely bring Aaron Bates back, make him a co-hitting coach with Peter Foxy and then or Faz, or however you pronounce his name or whatever.
Why isn't Pedroia hitting coach on this team? Or at
Because he
least
doesn't want to coach right now.
would you not love
Yeah.
to see Pedroia at first or third base? People like the Energizer Bunny out there.
Honestly, just having Tech and Pedroia on the bench, that just gives me
Pedroia's
chills.
got to be on the baseline.
oh god. I just
No.
love Veritek working with Alfaro because I am obsessed with Jorge
yes.
Alfaro.
We
Like,
need
just
Ortiz
provides a
being the
look.
first base coach because then because Ortiz will start talking to the first baseman and get the first baseman and get them distracted.
All right, we could be here all night.
Right.
Yep.
Hey, if you want to do another plug for your stuff again, Ed?
Yeah.
No.
I want to
mean,
plug everyone to follow you guys. This has been a lot of fun. During the season we'll have to do this again. But no, this is awesome. Thank you so much for
Absolutely.
having me.
Oh no,
Yeah.
it was a pleasure of ours. We are very excited about this. So when Mr. Taylor came over to told us in our group chat, it's like yeah, we got Ed Hand next week, and I was the first one. I was like, oh, I'm like, let's go. I was
We gotta
excited.
get Gabby on there too.
Yeah. I
Oh,
you
yeah,
guys are
Gabby's
happy too.
great.
I can't-
Yeah.
what I wanted to do, Mr. Hand, is what I've done with Mr. Joey Capone, who was gracious enough to come on, and Craig Teague, who does have the best hair on Red Sox Twitter, by the way. And by the way, I told this to Capone, and I'll tell it to you. Your beard is better than mine, which pisses me off a little bit.
I think your hair is better than mine, though. You know,
it's as Craig Teague said, I've got sneaky good hair for an old guy, so I appreciate that.
Honestly, I take your hair over Teague's.
Oh,
it's the superior hair. I'll go on record saying it.
We're
also
tweet it out. I'll retweet
for the Red Sox this year, so there's that. You and Hogdale are gonna tear it up.
Me and my fucking boy Hogdale, man. We are the infield. That is my.
The craziest
dude,
thing about Hogdale is that you look at like his picture and he kind of looks like he's a little kid. He's like 6'5" in real life. He's like an actual. He's gigantic. Like just like he looks like a linebacker.
So we might have to have a full
12.
Podcast
he looks 12.
He's a big man.
Oh man,
but I got Mr. Blade's support for second base. Hogdale's going to come in at short, so we're going to fucking tear some shit up this year for the 2023 Sox.
Right.
But what I wanted to, oh hell yeah! But what I want to do is I wanted to highlight Mr. Stats Masterson. He is a baseball savant like yourself, sir. You guys are absolutely phenomenal what you do. Thank you so much for coming on. I really truly appreciate it. Your engagements on Twitter they're what I like. They're positive. They're realistic, but they're positive, because a lot of Red Sox fans, it's, my thing is, look, anybody in the world can be a fucking asshole. It takes a special person to be a good person. And that's what I like to align ourselves with. And thank you so much for coming on and being such a positive voice on Red Sox Twitter. It's very refreshing.
It's very kind of you to say.
It's an honor to have you on, man. I've enjoyed it tremendously. My apologies for not speaking much tonight. I'm a little under the weather, but I was not going to miss this opportunity to get to meet you and get to listen to you speak. I do try to follow the stuff you guys do on YouTube with the Pesky Report. I follow all those guys.
I get it. There's a lot of it to follow. There's so many. I was saying this the other day. There are so many podcasts out there. If you're producing them, you got to do it because you like it, not because you're expecting people to listen.
Yeah, you have to. I'm on
keeping the name alive.
YouTube channel. Like I'm doing so much, but it's like, well, I like doing it. So I mean, if I didn't like it, like I'd be burnt out by now.
No,
we're trying to get. So go ahead, sir.
Oh, I was just gonna say you gotta have fun, and you guys clearly love what you're doing, and that's that's like honestly like that. People get drawn to that. I know I do these appearances sometimes where I'm on other people's, and you guys just have like the best vibes. These are just very good vibes.
That's our goal. We just want to have fun, talk to the Red Sox. We don't care about listens or whatever. We're just trying to have fun, and hopefully, if that gets us listens,
if we can fight through a 2022 off season, it was kind of dreadful. This season is going to be lightning in a bottle.
The Twitter space that I did during the 28-5 game, and I did that for the whole game, and it was just like the four of us just going like the whole game, losing our minds.
We just have fun with it. But Mr. Hand, is there anything that you want to plug before we wrap this up? I know we've taken up a lot of your time tonight.
I have. I launched my own personal project a couple of weeks ago. It's called Along the Crossroads, and it's not really a Red Sox podcast. It's more just an exploration of the connections we make through baseball. First episode's about heartbreak. I'm exploring a couple different themes. We've got someone coming on to talk about Venezuelan baseball. Got some people coming on to talk about their relationship with their father and what it means to them with baseball. So it's something a little bit different, but I'm excited about doing that. So
I hope you get that book out that you've been working on. That sounds phenomenal.
Well, we'll see.
It could be a movie.
I'll let you know, guys, when that gets there.
All right, gentlemen. I think that's a really good place to end this podcast. Ed, again, an honor. Thank you so much. It really means a lot to us. On behalf of our crew, for Derek, Stats Masterson McGuire, Jeff Brown, Mr. Jeremy, I am Robert fucking Taylor, and this has been Mr. Ed Hand. Thank y'all for listening to Off the Monster. Thank you, guys. We love you. We'll catch you here first game for the Red Sox on Friday against Northeastern, I think, right? Or Northwestern?
One of those.
Yeah.
All right,
one of
guys.
them.
Thank y'all so much.
It's Northeastern.
You have a Northeastern. Okay.
Northwestern's out
All right.
this way.
Thanks for watching, guys.